All right, awesome. Cool. So we are live. I'm going to share this link with the group, and then we'll get started.
Yay.
Video chat. And then I'm going to open that real quick in a new window to make sure it's working. And it looks like it is.
Good.
Perfect. All right, cool. Well, welcome everybody to our video chat. We'll give everyone a second to follow that link that we just posted in the chat room to start viewing. It looks like we have 6 viewers already, so people have found it. Looks like it's working.
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat room, if you could let me know that if the video is not working, just like post something that you can see us, that you can hear us, and that it's all good to go. Some confirmation would be awesome. And while we're doing that, I will start to explain a little bit how this chat is going to work. We have a question already, so from Tanya, which I think I'm happy to answer. They're telling us already that it works good, all good here, it's working. Thanks, guys. So this chat is going to be just mostly fun to go over like what the lessons from this previous week. We have the discussion topics. If you haven't downloaded them, they're in the student group. I posted the link in every single one of the groups, or you can find them in the Files tab in the student group. We'll be going over lessons 1 through 5. If you're in the chat room, the chat room tend to be a little bit lost if there's a lot of chat going on, so feel free to comment whenever you want about any of the discussion topics, but we will be going through the discussion topics in order, so try and keep with the order that we're going in. But you guys are a little bit delayed in us. You're about 20 seconds after us, I think, so it's okay if we bring your chat conversations into the video a little bit after. That's probably the way it'll work best. There was a question from Tanya. Is this session going to be the exact same tomorrow with the exception of those participating? The answer is yes. The discussion tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time is going to be the same lessons, reviewing 1 through 5. Different hosts, different people that will be able to make it, but we'll be going over the same topics. Speaking of our hosts, let's have you guys introduce yourselves. This is David and Mary. You guys go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's start with Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Tabor, author, professor, columnist, radio host, amateur actor, and enormous fan of Kevin Spacey, and I love this class. I just loved it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Mary. And David?
Hi, my name is David Ibarra. I come from Seattle, Washington, the land of rainfall, and I am a student at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, and I am studying music theater there. Though I think my main passion is storytelling, and so that includes all aspects of art and theater, like film and directing and screenwriting, and basically what you do to express yourself. I love that. Sorry.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're here to express yourself.
Yes, I'm here to share and learn with all of you and to play. So let's play.
Awesome. Sounds great. Cool. So like I said, everyone, we're going to be going through the topics. Didn't say at the beginning that this will be an hour-long discussion. We'll end about 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and hopefully, if you guys know where you are, an hour away from where you are currently in your time zone. So we'll start with the lessons that are the topics in the discussion document I sent out. The first topic is our introduction, trying to figure out from our first lesson from Kevin Spacey's class, the introduction lesson, and he talks a little bit about what it means to be an actor, why he's an actor. So I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think it means to be an actor? Do you act? Why do you act? All of that. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, let me jump in here, and then David, I'll go right to you. Or do you want to go, David?
Oh no, I actually just offered for you to go first.
Okay, so we're so generous with each other. It's something David and I were talking about before the program actually began. And there's a way in which acting connects us to literature, and because plays are an entree directly into the literary world. Even if you're not reading any books, if you're watching movies or going to or watching television, great. You're watching House of Cards, whatever you're doing, there's a certain intimacy that occurs in which what I call the unsayable gets said. And that connects me to the other and to myself. And that's a lot of the reason why I do this. And I'll talk about how I got involved directly in a little bit. But go ahead, David.
Yeah, I just to go off of that, I think it's to literature and to connect to basically to the heart, that Kevin was talking about, how he was saying, ultimately everyone just wants to see that we're a person, that we're a human being, and I think that we see that passion and we see that energy and that soul in literature, and we see it in different things, and we see it through period. That's what I was gonna say. But yeah, to be an actor, and what does it take? I think it means being okay to be vulnerable, and being okay to put yourself out there and to play and to to have an understanding that it may not be perfect, but you're going to work through it and discover things about yourself. And I think that's there's no way to do it, but yeah.
Cool. And so is that why you got into it, to be able to play and experience new things?
Yeah. So I started out as a tiny little fourth grader doing The Wizard of Oz. That was the first show I ever did. And I was always the kid that was I always got like the awards or the certificates for most likely to be heard across campus or across school, because I'm such a loud, and when I was a kid I was very obnoxious. So The Wizard of Oz was great for me because I got to play as the wizard, a loud and like booming character, and it was just such a great outlet for me to kind of it was a good outlet for me to kind of release that energy, and so as it kind of theater changed for me as I grew up, but it started out as a kid. It started out kind of gaining that confidence, and then it kind of now it's morphed into something where it's become now we're trying to tell stories, and now we're trying to change the world with theater, kind of thing.
That's awesome.
I was a nerdy little kid. So at 13 years old, I was in high school, which is not the greatest thing in the 10th grade. But I ended up in Thornton Wilder's By the Skin of Your Teeth, and I was the dinosaur and had one line.
Yes.
That was a long time ago, but I'm in here to say to all of you in the chat room, there may be professional actors out there in the chat room, there may be people who are just starting and thinking about trying this, that it ain't over until it's over. I just moved to Chicago. I'd been a professor at George Washington University for many, many years, and I'm a writer. And I got invited to this. I live in Hyde Park, which is the home of the University of Chicago, and there's a group here called 37 Players, and there aren't 37 players. They began in 1937. None of them are left. And I got cast as Vivian Baring in Margaret Edson's wonderful play Wit.
Oh, wow.
I had signed up for Kevin Spacey's class, hoping and praying that somehow I would get to it before I actually had to perform. And because I signed up so early, somehow I got the lessons early. It's good to sign up early for one of these classes.
Yeah.
And because I got the lessons early, I got to watch them before I performed this role, which breaks the fourth wall. It's a really difficult role. There's a lot of monologue in it. She really rules the whole stage primarily. And I did it completely different from any other way that I would have tried to do it if I had not taken Kevin Spacey's class. So it was fabulous for me. And it ain't over till it's over, guys.
So true.
So true. So I want to bring a couple comments in from the chat room about the question, what does it mean to be an actor? Darian says, to me it means opening and expanding your empathic and imaginative abilities to understand stories and lives outside of my own experience, which I think is really true and very close to what you said, David, about like feeling new things and trying different things.
Absolutely.
Stated
A
beautifully.
lot. It looks like a couple people are saying to open up their imaginations.
Right.
Erica says she's an actor. She loves being a part of a story that takes the audience on a journey and the challenge of truthfully playing a character, which I really love.
I like the word truthfully in that too. I think a lot of it is about, the truth of humanity, the truth of, what it is to be a human being, and I don't know, I like that word choice actually.
Absolutely. And I would just add this, that I think a great actor gives you a backstage pass to his soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. That's really, I hadn't thought of it like that. That's really cool.
There's a comment in here similar to what you said, Mary. Actually, not similar, but it goes along the lines of what you said. But it's from Misty D, who said, I was told in high school by my high school drama teacher that I should never attempt to do anything on stage or film. 20 years later, I needed an outlet for myself and decided I still had an interest, and I started in a class, and it turns out I wasn't so bad, and I loved it. Which I really like. Mikkel says, Misty, slap your drama teacher, and Mikkel's right.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
That doesn't make sense to me. So a high school drama teacher says to basically dismiss the two major forms of drama. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. But it sounds like she is backing it, and that's great. Love to see that.
As you should.
Cool. So there was a comment in that Kevin stated that I thought was really, I loved hearing it, and it said, the theater's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, and it still makes my heart beat very fast. And I pulled that out because it shows that, like, one, that he's super passionate about this. He loves what he does.
Yeah.
But two, I feel like most students in our class can relate to that. They're not just actors, but they get a thrill out of being on the stage. Do you guys feel that same thrill?
Absolutely. And when I was 50, I left a corporate job, and I'd been in the corporate world for 16 years, and I got an MFA in creative writing, and meaning cut my income in. My husband and I cut our income in half. Mm-hmm. Basically, I just took a big jump, and what happened is that there was an elective required, and all the writing students, creative writing students, took photography, and I took acting.
Hey.
While I was in the class, I wrote a story entitled Sine Die. It's D-I-E. It's Latin. And it won the Prentice Hall Fiction Contest, and it was judged by Ron Carlson, and it was published in a lit magazine called Hayden's Fairy Review, and then it appeared in my collection, The Woman Who Never Cooked. My life was changed forever. And this story would not have been written if I hadn't been in an MFA acting class, totally unqualified, by the way, to be in there. So for that young woman who said the teacher said she shouldn't be in there, I shouldn't have been in this class, and it changed my life. And forevermore. Yeah.
It's pretty cool how fate works out that way.
Yeah.
How it just kind of happens.
CM in the chat room said, the thrill's been with me long before I got involved with theater. I guess a lot of actors are simply born with it, and I'd say that's true. I think there's something. I think I started acting when I was like a kid. I was like second grade or whatever when I did my first play. I played Santa Claus in the night before Christmas, and I only got that because my teacher thought I had like rosy cheeks. She was like, "So you can do this role." So I was like 7. But that was probably the first time, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. But I remember being a kid, being like, "That was it. That was really cool." So I don't act anymore. But like that was like something that like was like put me on like a whole childhood of like acting and doing a lot of shows, which was awesome.
Very cool.
So I think that being it was MC or CM, sorry, who said that I guess I'm simply born with it. I think there's a lot of actors who just like they just know there's something they want to do and it's there, and then they will find it. There's another comment that I really liked. It was Theodora said, of course, the day acting stops giving me a rush of adrenaline is the day I'll walk away. And I gotta tell you, Theodora, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't.
It's probably gonna stay with you forever.
Neither.
Cool. Let's move on to our next topic. We're already 15 minutes into our chat. It's going so quickly. Which was going through lessons 2 and 3, which was about choosing a monologue. In these lessons, everyone who's seen it, we saw two different monologues. One was from Allison and one was from Chantal. But first, let's talk about why choosing a monologue is so important. How do you know when you've chosen the right monologue? So, what do you guys think? Why is it so important, and how do you know when you got it?
Well, I think it starts with, I think it starts with whether or not you like it, or whether or not you're interested in it. Because if you're not interested in something, then how can other people be interested in it? And so I think that first, the important part is knowing, is this literature that I'm really feeling like is speaking to me? Is this, yeah, I kind of am repeating myself, but yeah.
No, you're not. You're doing just great. And I think what you're saying, to build on what you're saying, David, is that it's when you can live it and breathe it the way Chantel does, where we see her do, that when you can't help but do it, when the words take your breath away, then that's probably the right choice for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and there will be times at school, I like what you said about taking your breath away. There will be times at school where monologues change, and for you personally, like you think you really like it, and then you put it up on its feet, and there will be times where I go into my studio class, and we workshop this monologue, and we slightly change something, or we'll work on voice, or we'll focus on the words that are in the text, and it'll give me a completely new perspective on the piece. And in the middle of me doing it, I'll forget the words. Like I'll just, even though I know the line and I know how it goes and I've practiced it many times, it throws me off because it's a completely new path. Which it's cool. It's cool how things.
Well, it's what you're describing is risk, and it's risky. And if it's risky, I think it's probably worth doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually exactly what someone in the chat room said. Naz said the stakes have to be high in the monologue you choose. That's when you know you chose the right one. It's the same thing, like choosing a risky thing, something that makes you feel, something you connect with. Alex and Astra says the monologue has to take the audience somewhere. It's important to choose something that takes you on a journey mentally and physically, which again, like getting you those feelings, those exciting like moments of taking your breath away.
Yes.
Bondi says about knowing when it's the right one. For me, it starts with your relationship with it. Mine caught my eye because my ex lost the first set of divorce papers. It has both comedy and a twist, which I wanted, which is funny. The monologue's about eating the divorce papers, it looks like.
Yeah.
Cool.
So candid. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in the class, in the Choosing the Monologue lessons, Kevin says monologues are dangerous because they teach you how to work alone. Why do you guys think that's dangerous, and how can you find ways to not work alone, especially when you're working with a monologue, which is in itself one person?
Well, one of the things he talks about, and this is really just quoting Kevin, is that it's to repeat what you said, Brad, it's dangerous because you are doing it alone, because acting is about reacting. So you've got to risk doing it with someone else. And I actually think that's a really important piece of advice. And you need to find someone who's willing to listen and respond and pull no punches. And in my view, this is like getting in the metaphorical ring with you. If you've got it, if the monologue is working, then you'll pull a non-actor into that ring with you. And isn't that the goal, to get the audience in the ring with you?
Right.
So that's how we want to make our monologues better, when our first ones are not so good, and then we'll get some advice as we go through the class. This can be a really helpful thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah, that was really well said. I really like that.
Sorry, I'm just reposting the videos for people who are just joining now. So you guys, there's a video chat too for anyone who is just joining the chat room. There's also a video you can be watching along that we're chatting and answering these questions. So Mikkel says monologues can become stilted. The actor can forget there's supposed to be someone there they're interacting with, and that's a lot of what Kevin said. Is that like you're not? And he said the job of acting isn't just acting; it's reacting,
Mhm.
and a monologue is your character's reaction to something else happening.
Right.
So if you are playing it alone and you're not doing it with other people, not letting other people see it, it then pulls you away from the character, which then disconnects you, and that can be dangerous.
Right. And there can be exercises too. There are different exercises you can. If you don't have access to a theater friend, and you have someone who maybe isn't as experienced or knowledgeable in theater, you can always ask him or her to kind of read along and to just kind of listen to what you're saying and to give like simple answers like no or yes while you're doing the monologue to kind of propel you to get to your next point.
Mm-hmm.
That or just having another actor or having a friend.
Or maybe someone you don't know at all. Like, when Kevin said, you walk into the park or you walk into a Starbucks, I thought that was such a brave thing to say. Say, listen, I'd just like to do this for you. You have to try to be careful so someone doesn't think you're trying to ambush them, and then I won't make too much noise. But, if you could just get someone to listen to you and say that you're practicing something, and I really would like to hear your critique. People love to give advice. Get some.
Yeah. Risks,
and again, taking risks and making sure there's something at stake when you're doing a monologue.
Yeah.
There was a comment here that I wanted to scroll up to. Erica said, I love what Kevin said. The monologues can't be one note. It must be a symphony. So practicing with someone will help reveal those turns and discoveries. Similar to what you, David, said, that when you have someone there, you can see how they respond, and they can help you bring something out, something new that maybe you wouldn't have discovered if you were doing it on your own.
That's the thing is you don't necessarily know, when you have bad body odor, you don't know you have bad body odor yourself. So if you have someone come up to you and say, whoa, that is really weird, you kind of need that honesty and that kind of, that like, oh, I didn't even realize that that's what was coming across, or that's what I was doing with this piece. I was trying to go for this. And so that's when you can start really playing around with it, and you can play around with it. Add color, add notes.
Nina Charming says, hi Nina, it is dangerous because it is more comfortable to work on it alone. That's okay if for others. I always ask strangers to watch me do my monologue. I do it in coffee shops or parks. They give me good feedback, which is what Kevin said about sitting in a Starbucks and just doing a monologue.
Yeah.
Very brave. I don't know if I could do that, Nina. But,
but I think it's really brave, too. I'm trying to get up the courage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our next question, and this was something that I thought was really interesting. We watched two monologues. One was Allison, and one was Chantal's. Allison's was about being, I can't remember the murderer's name, but that was
Charles Manson.
Charles Manson. Yes.
Double.
Yes, she was about a girl who was following Charles Manson, part of the Manson family, and then the other one, Chantal, was very emotional about speaking to the father of her child, and talking about race relations. So in those two monologues, it seems like Kevin basically said that Allison's was lacking; it was missing something. But meanwhile, Chantal's, if his advice to her was more of giving her tools to take it to the next level, but even right away, he said this is a great monologue and was a great piece.
Yeah.
What do you think was the difference between these two monologues, and why did Kevin give those feedback to them?
One of the things I feel is that Chantal totally owns it. I think we pretty much all agree on that. Allison, by the way, is playing. She's playing Squeaky Fromm, who actually is from the play, the musical, The Assassins, and this was a musical that Sondheim did with. I think the writer Weidman writes the book, and this is the woman who actually attempted to assassinate Gerald Ford. So the whole play is about people who have the whole musical is about all those who have attempted to assassinate a president. Interesting for a musical. Okay. So the thing about Allison, at some point, the way I feel danger in Chantal, I really feel danger. Allison is dealing with Charles Manson as her subject. And I'm wondering if one of the reasons that Kevin didn't feel it was right for her is that maybe she needed, and I'd like really thoughts from the chat room on this, that maybe the choice to underestimate the danger seems right, but it needed a kind of edge of evil.
Right. It needed a specificity. It needed specificity on like coming from her, because the words don't really. It doesn't point to one specific, one specific thing. And I felt like as he started to kind of work with her a little bit more, especially with the words too, is to give even the words. He told her to give the word specificity, right? He told her to really think about what you're saying, and a whore or a twinkly double smile, like give it specificity, have color to it.
It's also in past tense. So she knows when she opens her mouth with the first word that Manson has killed Sharon Tate. So she has that personal knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So a little edge of evil of her own dangerous quality in there, I think, would have changed that a lot. Now, I thought she was just a beautiful actress and did a really great job. And it's so brave to just stand up and do anything like what she did.
In front of Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the chat room, you said you wanted to get some people's opinions on it.
I do.
Yes.
It said, Michael said, Squeaky was talking about someone else, essentially. Chantal was talking about her own pain.
Mm-hmm.
So again, and I think that goes back to what we're talking about. You have to feel it, you have to connect to it, and Chantal's was very personal, very emotional, which the character had so much growth in that short monologue as well.
Well, when it ends, too, by like straight up asking Buggy, I need you to take care of this for me, or I need this from you, rather than it being kind of an abstract idea. Yeah. It's like she wants something from him, and it's there, and now she's asking the question, and she wants it to happen, kind of thing.
Yeah. There's another question. Oh, CM said, I think there were higher stakes in Chantal's. She had more to bring out with her character with more depth and revealing struggles within the context of the show. And I think again, that's true. I think that this is a story of, again, personal. There was more to what she wanted, and like you said, at the end, she's asking for him to take her from her, whereas it felt like in the Squeaky monologue, there wasn't that full circle coming at the end. It was still just, a bit of a story. And, interestingly enough, Erica said, I've heard that monologues being in the moment are stronger than telling a story, which I thought applied to Allison's and Chantal's case. Which is really... Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess like that makes sense that here is Allison's story is telling a story of what happened. Allison's monologue, excuse me, is telling a story of what happened previously. Chantal's was about what was happening to her in that moment, and it connected to another person, which is really great. Any thoughts about what they said there, guys?
Yeah. So question mark. Yeah, I think, and I think that's what Kevin wanted to work with Allison too, with both of them really. But with Allison's, yeah, I think it does apply to Allison's, where she needs to be in the moment and kind of experience this, for the first time, and how like you don't really know what you're saying. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna say in the next 5 seconds, but I'm gonna say it as if it's, because I don't, right? It's not rehearsed.
Yeah.
But, rather than I'm gonna get up here and say some words.
And I think that that person in the chat room who said this was really wise about if she could have made it more about herself, and that keys into what I was trying to. If I can build off of your thought in the chat room, that if she could make it seem as if she knows there's danger inside of herself, that she knows that she's not just being led by Charlie with the twinkly devilly smile, but she herself is dangerous. If we had that feeling, then she would own it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
And, yes, go ahead, Brett.
No, I was going to read someone else, so feel free to say your comment first. I was just going to say people were agreeing with Erica. Yeah, so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that Chantal, she, in the first time she went through it, if you watch the video again, she's a little bit aimless, actually. She looks at the floor a lot, and she kind of goes, and she's not very specific with, where she's what she's saying, which I think is interesting because that could be a choice. You know, she's kind of overwhelmed, but I think Kevin, by putting her in a chair and sitting her down, if you watch the second time, she's laser focused on one specific point. She's like looking at one specific point, and compared to the first time when she's kind of looking at the ground before she thinks, and then she says it. And I don't know. It was cool to see how he came up with like different approaches for both, and was able to. He's a great teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. There's someone made a comment in here. Lilac Wine said, if you're acting, you are in your head. If you're being, you're in your heart.
Yes.
Which I think that's a great comment.
Like Patsy Rodenberg.
Was that?
It's like Patsy Rodenberg. Patsy Rodenberg is she is a teacher. She comes out with, she has this acting method where there's different circles. So there's the first circle, the second circle, and then the third circle. The first circle or the third circle is, if you're in the third circle, it means like you're overdoing it, or you're kind of out of the character. Or it is the first circle. Second circle is where it's like complete, genuine reaction to what's happening, and it's ideal for the actor to be in the second circle. But when you're like acting and you're putting up this facade, and it's fake, then you're in the third circle. And then I can't remember what the first circle is. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of Patsy Rodenberg. But she's a great teacher.
Well, it makes me think of the idea of flow that we know operates in sports. So if you get to that place where you really don't see the audience, where you just feel what you're doing, and if you can find that, and then we yell "Olé" and "Bravo" and "Brava," you know, I mean, the audience is going to get it.
Yeah.
No matter how trained the performance is or how out there the performance is, we'll know it, and we're lucky if we find that place. But that's what we're all looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
Cool. 30 minutes in, it's going so quickly. So I want to move us on to the next topic, which is talking about lesson 4, which is about carving out words. And in this lesson, Kevin reviews, a couple students. I can't remember whose monologue it was, but he starts talking to them about like which words to emphasize.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Othello.
Oh, that's right. It was the Othello one. That's right. And he was struggling with like the definitions of the words. That's right.
You have been in my office.
Yeah. So in this one, Kevin says there are a number of ways to figure out which ways to emphasize, but you can't emphasize them all. How do you guys make these choices of which words to emphasize, and what influences those choices? What is it about those words that makes you choose them?
Mary, you want to take this one first?
It's a tough one.
I'm trying to. When you say which words you choose, I want to go back to the concept of stake, of the strong stake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big reader also, so this term of the strong stake is actually attributed to Henry James, who wrote all these prefaces after he wrote his novels. And in the preface to The Ambassadors, he talks about the fact that every story he writes operates around a strong stake, and he defines it as something that is driven in like the noose of a cable that's swirled around. And I think that's key to choosing the words, that if the words have to do with the meaning of what you're trying to get to, the emotion that's strongest.
Yeah, the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is into what you're trying to say. And I think that to go off of that, it's an instinct almost. It's an impulse. When you read a book, when you're reading Harry Potter or whatever, and you imagine Daniel Radcliffe's voice as he's saying it, you think in your head, okay, this is the story, this is the movie that's happening in my head as I'm reading this. And I feel like that's at least for me, that's how it is. And so like when I'm like reading a script or I'm doing a cold read or something, um, it's cool to like read it in my head, and then the challenge is to get how I read it in my head and how it's, how I'm receiving it, and to vocalize that and to be like, okay, this is how I interpreted it, and they casted me because they wanted my interpretation of this character, and so I need to say that in this interpretation.
But this makes me think of something else. I'd like to go back to Allison's monologue from the musical The Assassins for 1 minute, because one thing it made me think about was that when I was thinking about her, I went and did a search on because I went to read the link. We have these little workbooks afterwards, so I went to the link. I could see that it was The Assassins, and so I Googled YouTube on The Assassins, and I found this conversation between Weidman and Sondheim. Weidman wrote the book, and Sondheim obviously wrote the music and the lyrics, and they talked about how they created the work. So one of the things they talked about was how there was supposed to be shock and humor in the play, but also anger in the characters. And Sondheim talks about the condescension towards, particularly Fromm, who attempted the assassination of Gerald Ford, and that condescension is implicit in Allison's history. So the choice that she makes, like there's a line where she says, "My makeup or the bombing in Cambodia." Remember that?
Yeah.
That line, the juxtaposition there is dark, and it could have been funny, I thought, because those two things. Do you agree, David?
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw the musical like once, and it was a long time ago, so I can't remember like exactly the character names, but there is the one character that dresses up as Santa Claus, and he has so many of these like this just terrible things that he says, but it's funny, it's it's that dark humor that I don't know, I liked it. And so
yes, I guess to tie up what I was saying about this, I'm saying that there's also a way to, if we can, and this is not easy always, is to look for the intention of the author, of the writer.
Do
and here was YouTube where these two are discussing it. You have Weidman and Sondheim discussing it, and just listening to them, you would hear some of the intention of what they intended. That would help. That would inform some of your choices.
Absolutely, yeah. To trust the words, to trust that it's there, and Shakespeare is really good with that. We just did a lot of vocal work. I took a movement class and a voice class with Mark Devine at Ball State, and he goes into pretty decent amount of detail into Shakespeare work and how it has a rhythm and how each line is a certain amount of beats, and if it's not a certain amount of beats, then that's telling you something, and just like this detail on like annotating Shakespeare and how the words he's very literal. He gives you everything. Shakespeare does. He gives you everything you need, and I think that's what Kevin was talking about. Is you trust in the rhythm and in the words, and it was like the beginning of one of his videos. I can't remember. I think.
You also need to know what the words mean. So in the Iago monologue, he's done me. Shakespeare's use of that word was, he's ended my career. And to understand the word, the way it was used, might mean you'd have to travel to the Oxford English Dictionary and take a look at,
Right.
find out that. I had to do that when I did the wit piece. It deals with she's a John Donne scholar in the play. Vivian Baring is, and she has stage 4 ovarian cancer. So first of all, you got all these medical terms, but also there are 2 of the holy sonnets which are written in the Victorian period, and I had to go and study those sonnets and study what the words actually meant. In Death, there was Death Be Not Proud, which is more widely known, but then there was this one called If Poisonous Minerals and If That Tree, which is all about death, and I had to go through and get all those allusions in order to be able to present the sonnets to the audience and have them have meaning. because otherwise it would have sounded like gibberish. So you got to know what the actual words mean. And I was trying to do this to infuse myself with who Vivian Baring was, to like get a transfusion from Vivian.
Right. Yeah.
That's what people are saying in the chat room too. Amber P says, you have to be very careful. I know with Shakespeare, I have a dictionary to understand the language, so I know exactly what I'm saying so that I know when and where to emphasize. So being able to know the definitions helps you carve out those words.
Yeah.
There was a really great comment in here from CM, and I want to read the whole thing because I thought it was really cool. And it says, back in sophomore year of university, I previewed a monologue from Julius Caesar to my drama teacher before using it for an audition. She told me to imagine the words I'm saying with the monologue and paint it out with my voice. In other words, you would paint a picture with your monologue and you would know the words to emphasize. This would help bring a strong image into the audience's mind. And I love that that's like thinking of the words as, you know, the paint, and your performance is the paintbrush, right? And the audience gets to see the canvas. That's a really cool visual representation of what actors are doing.
I want to hear that big time and say bravo to you. Great.
Right. And I totally agree with that. And we also worked on singing it, and that reminds me of like singing it too.
That's fascinating.
It's very musical, and Kevin said that too. He's very, it's music. His words are music, and so sometimes you can find meaning in his words by making a song out of it. And so as an assignment, we all as a final, actually, we had two parts to the final. We had to present the sonnet as a sonnet, as if we're speaking the sonnet, and then we sung our sonnet, and we like came up with like this musical composition of it, and it was so helpful for the original part, for speaking it, and because through singing it and through rhythm, we understand, and that's why I think Hamilton is so wonderful too, is because it has.
Have you seen it?
Rhythm. I have not seen it, unfortunately. No.
You can't get tickets.
No, I
know. What I have here is I don't have a DVD player, but somebody gave me the the CDs. I have the CDs.
Yes.
I want to hear it.
Oh my gosh, Lin-Manuel is smiling.
Yeah. So we talked about the next question already, so I'm going to skip past it, which was knowing the meaning of the monologue. How do you figure it out? It sounds like dictionaries, looking for context within the play, or looking at other works from that time, which sounds like everything that people are saying in the chat rooms and what you guys have said. So I'm going to move us on to the next and the fifth chapter, our final lesson to go over today, which is lesson 5, grounding a monologue. In this lesson, we saw Kevin work with Steve, who was doing a monologue, and had him do a domestic activity. Basically, he started packing up a bag when he was doing his monologue, and it changed the entire feel and vibe of the piece. I wanted to know, my question is, why did Kevin have Steve do this? How did it impact the piece and his performance overall?
Okay, I want to start with the fact that this is Beyond the Horizon, a Neil play. This is a really, really dark play. And the first time that Steve did it, all the pathos that is in the entire play was in that first performance. But this monologue, which was slightly shortened for what he did, is in Act 1, Scene 1. What Kevin did by getting him into that suitcase and allowing him to use the humor was he got him to find that place instead of the lost place where Robert ends up at the end of the play. So he got him at the beginning of the play when Robert still has a lot of hope and a lot of bravado about him, which is gone by the end of the play. That's called finding your moment, I think, can give a monologue life. And in the present tense, what I like to call the now, he put him in the now of the play instead of into the totality of this really dark play.
Because he doesn't know where he's going. The character doesn't know he's going to end up in that play. No. I will be right back. I am so unprepared. I don't have this connected to a charger, so let me go get a charger really quick, and I'll be right back.
No problem. I want to read a couple of the comments in the chat room, which are going back to the monologues. Michael says Shakespeare is really bad for people thinking the airy language is all they need, so they play the beauty of the language, which often doesn't help the audience know what you're talking about. By making it real instead of poetry, it became something that was hugely alive and wonderful. Grounding a monologue is making it real and interact with the language instead of simply parroting it, which is a lot of what Kevin said in the class too. It's very similar to what Kevin said when Kevin talked about, when you feel like you have to do Eugene O'Neill, or what was the other, shoot, the
Well,
other,
Shakespeare,
yeah, Shakespeare, and then all these like amazing, amazing writers who write so beautifully, and you feel like you have to do this like justice and perform it in that way. But when you really listen to the words and you make it realistic to real life, that's when the emotion and the feeling can come through.
well, we have to get the gods off.
Tennessee Williams, that's who it was, yeah.
What was it? Say again, Brad.
Tennessee Williams.
Oh yeah.
That's who it was.
He referred to
Michael
that.
gave me that one.
I don't remember where there was a monologue from Williams. Maybe I missed that, but I think it wasn't in the first.
I think Kevin was just talking about in general, like when you have these playwrights that you're trying to do justice to their writing.
Yeah, but what you're saying, and I think what Kevin is saying, is we got to get the gods off their pedestals. If you think about Hamlet and all the people who played Hamlet and how difficult the play is, when he's fighting with his mother, he's basically mad at Gertrude, and we can all relate to fight. He's not mad. He's angry. He's furious with his mother. We can all relate to being furious with one's mother, okay? So we have to get the gods off the pedestals, including the gods who played the parts before us.
Mm-hmm.
Did it before us, and just think about what it's really about.
Michael says, would be very true, Michael Chiem, sorry Michael, I don't know how to pronounce that. I think the activity distracts the actor from thinking and watching himself. He was free to talk without thinking. And it gave, again, like made him just like do the words and then feel the emotion without thinking like I have to do it in this way.
Right, because he's focused on the task at hand. Right.
Yeah, totally.
He's not focusing on what he's saying, he's focused on what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and now I want to ask you guys any final comments about any of these 5 lessons, anything you didn't discuss that you wanted to talk about or you wanted to bring forward.
I have a question, and this is really for you guys and for everybody in the chat room, because I'm a writer, and I have this story that I mentioned earlier called Sign a Die, and I'm actually thinking of turning it into a play and of writing my own monologue. And there's a lot of autobiography in it's a piece of fiction, but do you think that's nuts for me to try to do that, or should I just find something that's already been written by somebody else?
So you're asking,
crazy. I'm asking for advice. Should I do this? Because it feels risky, and the risky thing feels good to me to just try it, even if it flops. What do you guys think?
Well, we'll let the chat room get a minute to feel the question, but I tell everyone, we talked about choosing a monologue earlier in this discussion, and I think that it's up to everyone what kind of monologue they want to do. I know that there are other students who have written their own monologues, so they're going to be doing those ones. But I think the question is, and Amber just asked us in the chat room, is does it feel good to you? Does it feel like it's the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. And Amber said, if it feels good, do it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Amber. I'm scared. Super scared.
Don't be afraid.
There's this philosopher. His name is Edmund Jabez, and he said, if there is no risk, there is no writing. Well, that's got to apply to acting too, right? If there is no risk, there is no acting. So in this case, it sort of merges for me to maybe try this. And while I fall on my face, you can all see me do it.
Oh no. And it's cool too because it's more vulnerable, I bet too. It's like we were talking about device pieces. It's like it's more vulnerable because we know that you wrote it, right?
Yeah.
So we know that it's actually a part of you, and so what you're saying is not a character that you made up. It's you, and so that's really brave. I think it's very brave.
Well, we'll see. Don't hold your breath too long. Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Well, the chat room is being super supportive. Vondi says, "Go for it. Turn it into a play." So
yes,
and Amber said, "Go for it." People are losing pretty excited about you doing it.
I love you guys.
And Nicole says, I still desperately want to do a monologue that rings true to me and feels like it sits in my soul. but I keep telling myself that I need to challenge myself more and take on something that gives me fear. And you were just saying, like, you're afraid or whatever, fearful of it. I think you guys should both go for it and do something that makes it a little riskier, but it makes you feel alive. And we talked about choosing a monologue earlier, and we said, does it feel right? Does it give you those, like, take your breath, and you're like, oh, what does it make you give it, like, a little, like, on edge? Then it's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is so cool. I had so much fun doing this with you guys. This is so wonderful. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
This is so exciting. I love it. This is so much fun. I love talking about theater, and I love talking about art because it's a very hopeful thing among a very dark time, I would say.
Yeah.
And so it's refreshing to to be in this conversation.
Yeah, and you know what I really wanted you to, if you have a few minutes and we can get David back to talk about the dark time, I want him to do that. I just want to add this and say that in the arts there's so much rejection. And this is a place where we can get encouragement and not feel that everything is going to, you're just going to be thrown out and said, we'll call you later, You're going to get somebody to say go for it. And that's why these classes are so fabulous, really.
Yeah.
You hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
David, can you talk a little bit about the dark time and the way you thought about Chantel's monologue? That was so good when we were...
before we started, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we were just talking about how I saw the video, I saw Chantal's video, I hope I'm saying her name right, Chantal. I saw her video a couple months ago when I first registered for the class, and it was like before all these tragedies have happened, and I once I was back in the class intensive kind of mindset, I rewatched them, and it was just very different. It was so different, and it's weird to think that she could be doing this monologue right now in a different setting, and it will be, I don't know, there's just an entire level of perspective and circumstantial personality that will be added onto it because of what's happened in the past month. And so, I don't know, I just thought that it was really interesting because it had a completely different meaning for me when I was rewatching it, and then she, I don't know, I just can't even imagine what she's going through, and I can imagine the next time that she does that, how different it'll be.
But what a great compliment to what she achieved in that monologue, because she connected with you not once, but more than once, so that she remained in your consciousness, and that's what a great actor can do, can get inside your heart.
Right, yeah, and it has that replay aspect to it. They all do. Honestly, I thought that all of the students, there was something to learn from all of the students, and we'll talk about all of them over the course, but there was so much learning. Yeah.
So good, David. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. And also, I think we're going to end the video chat now. Thank you both for coming in and giving your opinions and being so great with your conversations and having so well prepared for this chat. It was awesome.
Oh, I'm honored to be here for this, Allie.
Also, thank you everyone in the chat room for joining us. I'll stick around for another 10 minutes in the chat room to answer any questions you guys have about the class intensive, the assignment so far, choosing your monologue, recording your monologue, all of that.
And I'm going to go to the chat room and take a look. So if anybody
yeah, feel free. The chat room can still stay open. People, you can keep chatting, keep going with it.
Oh yeah, be there.
Yeah,
definitely.
So for anyone else, there was a question in the chat room that came up earlier about can only certain people join the video chat. The video chat we'll try to have it with every live discussion, and anybody can help host the video chat. Just let me know ahead of time that you'd like to host. We'd like to get 3 to 4 hosts each chat. It's a great way to one, give yourself a little motivation to do the assignments and go through the lessons and prepare yourself. But it's also a great way for you to connect with some of your classmates. And it also, the video chat helps us keep the chat going and keep organization to our discussions. It's a little hard to do in a chat room, so the video chat helps keep us on focus. So if you do want to help host in the future the way that David and Mary have today, just let me know. It'd be awesome. So Michael says, do we email you if you want to help or put it up on the Facebook group? Put it up on the Facebook group and tag me. All you have to do is @ my name, @ Brad Dixon, and I'll probably show up because I'm in the group. And then I'll know that you want to do it. And I have a bunch of people who have already volunteered. If you previously volunteered, when we signed up for the class intensive, I have your information. I'll be reaching out throughout the class intensive. Anyways, thank you both again for joining us. I will be here to answer some more questions in the chat room.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I feel just blessed. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys, have a great night.
Yes, you as well.
Night.
Talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
And, okay.